Yeah, I'm Sven. I'm based in Düsseldorf in Germany. I've been working with SAP's HR, HCM, HXM solutions for the last 24 years. And today at Odessa, I'm responsible for the Qualtrics team as well as for the team in Germany. And I want to talk you through the latest addition to SAP's people management solution, the Qualtrics Employee Experience Platform. That's the tool that is meant to bring us data that lead to insights, but also support to take action to improve employee experience. Why should we even bother to do that? Is it not enough these days that we expect unemployment to rise, that people have a job? Should they not be glad about it? In a way, yes, but there's a lot of research showing that employee experience is basically driving your customer experience, right? So if your employees are disgruntled, if they have a bad experience, they are very unlikely to provide a great experience for your customer. So at the end of the day, employee experience is driving, obviously, employee retention and engagement, well-being and performance, improving your employer brand, helps to create a listening culture, which drives the innovation in your organization, but also eventually responsible for customer satisfaction. So enough reasons to put an emphasis on that, and we see in the conversations in the HR community that this topic is actually getting quite hot at the moment, to the extent that SAP kind of defined this new category. We are not talking about HCM anymore, human capital management, but HXM as human experience management. So how does this fit into the picture? What does the platform Qualtrics do when I say going from data to insights to action? Well, the data comes from employee feedback. So we get it from the horse's mouth, so to say, right? And we have these automated surveys that can come in various types and sizes. They can be sent by email, or they can be embedded in your HR system into a SuccessFactors screen as the integration between the two solutions advances basically with every release. But that's just data, it's not telling you anything yet, right? So you need an intelligent analysis, and you need the right people to be able to get hold of the insights that this analysis brings you. And when we talk about managing people, it's not enough to have HR in the process. At the end of the day, it's line managers who are responsible for the performance of their teams. So Qualtrics has a really strong tool called interactive dashboards to give the right insights to line managers, so they know what's happening in their teams, and then eventually can take the actions. Where again, Qualtrics helps with the action planning tool that also can provide guidance to the line managers who are not necessarily employee experience experts, right? So the Qualtrics platform helps with some guidance. How can line managers improve when certain points are not where they want them to be? Going one step back about what is Qualtrics. So we talked about employee experience. Qualtrics does have a broader scope, so you're aware if you encounter that, and actually comes originally from academic research and then goes into customer experience management. So the whole side customer brand product, and then these concepts were actually used for employee experience management. That the root comes out of the customer experience management. But basically, if we talk about employees as our internal customers from an HR point of view, makes a lot of sense to apply the same or similar concepts. And in this employee experience module, we have all these various types of projects or surveys, with a typical engagement survey that might be sent out on an annual rhythm, or regular pulse follow-ups every 3 months, to more sophisticated tools like life cycle surveys that actually ask employees in the right moments that matter to them what they think about certain points and in certain points of their employee journey. We have classic 360 feedback surveys where you can You can ask peers, superiors, subordinates, or externals like customers to rate employees on certain competencies, and various other types of projects we can run. And the type of questions we want to answer, just to give you a few examples, is something like performance management. You would be able to identify who are your high performers, and maybe you put them into these talent pools for succession management to succeed your top salespeople or your board members. But in that context, it's actually important to know where they stand with their experience. How do they feel about their employee journey? And if they don't feel very good about it, well, they are likely to end it prematurely, though you don't have to make any succession plans with people who are all keen on leaving at the next opportunity. So if I know that my employee experience or engagement scores are okay, it's not enough. I also would like to know these very important people in our organizations. How are they particularly feeling? Or say you have started an initiative with offering more part-time, offering more working from home arrangement, a very current topic, right? And you want to know, do we actually achieve our intention of improving perceived work-life balance? So let's ask about this, whether those who are in those programs actually feel that they have a better work-life balance than others. Or you may have been starting an inclusion policy to make sure that all your workforce feels valued in the same way and not discriminated. Again, it would be good to actually understand the different engagement of like feel-good scores between various groups, whether that's by gender, age, or ethnicity. And what all these questions have in common is that they need two different types of data. It's not only the touchy-feely data that we get from the experience management, it's also the hard data which comes from your HR core system. And that's where SAP has been driving this X data plus O data story. Say, okay, it's great if you know that your employees are overall happy or unhappy, but you need to know more. Who is happy, who is unhappy? It's great you know that you have a high fluctuation rates, but you want to know why. Huh? And that's where you're actually putting SuccessFactors data and Qualtrics data together, O data with X data together. That's where the real interesting insights come from, where you can take action with the right target groups. And when we talk about the insights we get, about the analysis the system can do, one highlight definitely I want to share with you is the capability of text analysis. So in the old days, in these surveys, you would usually have tick boxes or like scales from 1 to 5 you can reply on, but all with predefined questions. And if there was a box where somebody could put in their own text, a few sentences on a form, doesn't really matter whether it would be on paper or whether it would be online. If you do this for 10,000 employees, nobody would ever really be reading these texts and interpreting them. Until now, when you actually have the technology to intelligently automate that reading of those 10,000 comments. And imagine these comments, they may raise ideas or problems you didn't even think about. So you usually wouldn't have asked about this. This is where you really find the gold in these surveys, and tools like the Qualtrics text analysis help you actually to dig out those nuggets. Like in this example, we see that the biggest common themes that are in the comments are about communication and about management. And in both, we have a large chunk of like negative feeling. So that's another thing, that this tool actually identifies a sentiment in a statement. Maybe not in each individual correctly, but in the greater scheme of things, if you have 1,000 responses, this is pretty accurate. So you would know that actually the majority of people who commented in this survey have a negative sentiment about the management. So that's something you would really want to know if it happens, to be able to do something about it. We're talking about the employee journey. And so this, what we mentioned earlier, the life cycle survey is something that if we talk about capture experience, responses, feedback for moments that matter to employees. So if somebody has their onboarding ending in May this year, and you don't want to ask about if you were a new employee during the course of this year, how was your onboarding in the survey you sent out in December, right? So this is about moments, about event triggers. And again, when you put the two systems together, SuccessFactors knows when the onboarding ends, it knows when somebody is promoted, it knows when somebody comes back from sick leave, and then it's able to tell Qualtrics, send this person this kind of survey, we want their feedback. This is where the power of mixing the two solutions comes together. That was enough talk. Let's see some action live in the system. So I'm logging into our sandbox instance. And I'm going into a engagement survey. So don't despair. I'm not going to talk you through a long questionnaire. You've all seen questionnaires and surveys during your lifetime, I guess. So I won't show you how to build surveys, how to load participants, how to manage the process. I want to go right into the insights part of the analysis and dashboards, because that's where Qualtrics differentiates itself from many of the other solutions. So I have here this one dashboard that could be available to HR, to the executive team, but most notably it could also be available to each line manager, who would then naturally be restricted to the data of their own team. And we start this dashboard with an overview page. So on the left-hand side, see we have several pages. We start with this overview, so at one glance, you see the most important KPIs. We see the participation rate, 71%. It's not brilliant, but could be worse. And that's something that could also be interesting to actually check during the course where your survey is out, because this is real-time data. If your survey is available for 2 weeks, after week 1, you could look into it. You could even go by country, department, how are response rates, and maybe send some more communication out if you feel that the response rates are not where they should be. Then on the right-hand side, we have an engagement summary. That's a score that's basically calculated based on various questions in the survey. We see that like 53% are on the positive part, and 36% are rather negative, and some in the middle. So it's not brilliant, it's not a disaster either. You also have this word cloud, so that's not yet the full intelligent text analysis, but you kind of see on the positive side and on the negative side what are the main buzzwords that are coming up. So you see that there seems to be an issue a bit around training, around strategy. That's the most prominent parts you could dig into them. What I want to focus in here is the Net Promoter Score. So I guess some of you have a marketing background and know what it is. For those who don't, it's the emphasis is on net. So the question behind this usually is something like, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend SD-Works as an employer to family and friends? But then it's not just an average or something, but it basically finds the top answers, 9 and 10. These are promoters. And the lower half answers, actually 0 to 6, are called detractors. And then we have the passives in the middle. Basically, you take the promoters and detract the number of detractors from that, and then you get the score. So if you have 50% of your people give you top answers, are promoters, and 50% give you bottom answers, are detractors, then your net promoter score would be 0. So here we would have a 4, which is very close to 0. So it's not where we wanted to have, but at least it's not negative, right? But as I said earlier, this is across the whole organization, but no person is an average. Like everybody has their own feelings about the organization, and possibly every group has like a different perception. So again, we can use this data we would have from SuccessFactors to do some slicing and dicing. I have these filter options here. So I could filter by gender to see is there a difference. We would see that there actually is a slightly better net promoter score from our female employees. So it's not a huge difference, but maybe something to look into. I talked about high performers earlier. So the first point would be to see, okay, this is not great anyway. How do our high performers rate us? If they're even worse, then we are in trouble. But this would be this piece of good news. At least they have a significantly higher NPS score than the average. So it's good to know. Maybe we can still sleep at night. Or something else, I could look at a particular business unit. So, okay, I think it's probably particularly important that our sales team feels good about the organization because they need to transport this positive experience to our customers. Bad news here, it's actually a very bad rating we have in the sales team. And if as a manager of a sales team, I would now like to dig even deeper, maybe I again go into splitting by gender, and then all of a sudden the system hides all the data from me. Why is this happening? So you see here on participation, I've been slicing down to 3 individuals. So it seems we have 3 male employees in the sales team, and we have the security threshold built in, which the customer can actually define what it should be to make sure that a line manager is not able to slice to very small groups and eventually guess what individuals' responses are and then maybe be biased against those individuals. And that's actually, it sounds like a small thing, but it's a very important part. It works very well in the sales pitch if you encourage prospects to check whether the competitive tools can do the same. Otherwise, it might, the whole idea of giving line managers access to this might just fall apart. So that's like the main messages. I don't want to go through all the details, but going to this dashboard where we actually see like the individual items on our survey sorted from those who have the highest impact on the Net Promoter Score. How do we know that? Well, it's statistics. So those who always enjoyed the statistics lectures at university, this is your moment. This is why you sat through all those lectures. So here we have the larger the dot, the higher the influence of this particular item on the whole Net Promoter Score. Just making a beginner's response because I didn't remove my filter. So go back to all. And so I see that down here, we have very poor ratings here, but it also doesn't seem to be too important. Statistically, the correlation is 0.3 to the overall result. And on the top where we have the most important one, it's not quite as bad. But still, none of them is brilliant. I might want to start to improve something. So looking at this one, the company provides me with the tools to effectively do my job. That should be a no-brainer that we need to do this, and still a significant proportion feel they don't have this. So now we get to the next step, to taking actions. There is this link that says improve. Well, we are not yet there that we push this link and the situation improves automatically, right? Maybe in 20 years we'll have robots doing that work for us. But it will actually help us to plan actions to improve the situation. So I click on here and I get to this guided action planning, which tells me a little bit about this topic, why we're actually getting this feedback, and also gives me some suggestions how to improve. And these suggestions, they are built into the Qualtrics platform for the Qualtrics out-of-the-box surveys already. And if you do your custom survey with your custom items, then as an HR team or an experience management team, you can actually add this guidance yourself, customized to your own organization. So as a line manager responsible for this team, I now say, yeah, I want to create an action plan and then follow that through. So I'm now jumping into the action plan page where I start with an empty plan, and I could create my own actions and decide, yeah, I invite them all to cinema night and then things will be fine. Or I could go with the recommendations from the experts and say, this seems to make sense. I add this to my plan. I add this to my plan. And then I get these actions in my plan I can add due dates. This looks like it's something easy to do, so I can do it quite soon. And maybe I add myself as an owner. So here we get in classical task tracking, which is not rocket science, but it's really beautiful. We have this all integrated. You see the problem in your dashboard. You immediately have the link. You go into your action planning. You get the guidance. In a future release, you will even be able to immediately link to trainings in the SuccessFactors learning platform. So it really makes it easy. There is no excuse for the line manager to say, "Oh, I don't know what to do." Really, help is always just one click away. So that's where we close the circle. We collected the data. We help to create insights, and now we are pushing the action. The only thing, we can't go beyond planning and tracking in the tool. At the end of the day, the line manager still needs to talk to their employees themselves. We are not replacing that yet. That concludes this session.